The first time I danced cumbia, I felt like someone had finally given my social anxiety a hammock. The music started with that familiar accordion sound, nostalgic and a little bit goofy, like the soundtrack to a small town fiesta. My partner held my hand, and instead of dragging me into a flurry of spins and high-speed footwork, we just shuffled. A little step back, a little step forward, side to side. It felt less like performing and more like walking together with rhythm. We moved in a gentle circle, following the flow of all the other couples. Nobody was trying to do the most. No one was auditioning for a music video. Cumbia didn't ask me to be impressive, it just invited me to be present. I swayed my hips in a small, comfortable way, the kind you could do while holding a plate of food and not spill a single grain of rice. At some point, I realized I was actually breathing. I wasn't counting beats in a panic or scanning for collisions. I was just there, in the moment, in the music, with an accordion as my emotional support instrument. It felt like the dance equivalent of a good long exhale. The bass line hit first, low, steady, confident. Reggaeton doesn't tiptoe in, it strolls up like it already owns the room and kindly invites you to join. I stood there for a second, feeling the rhythm vibrate through my ribs, and then my hips started to answer. Nothing fancy at first, just a slow, steady groove. One thing I love about reggaeton is that it doesn't demand you look a certain way, it just asks you to feel a certain way. Confident, grounded, a little mischievous. I bent my knees, softened my body, and let my hips trace small circles in time with the beat. It felt like signing a peace treaty between my brain and my glutes. No criticism, no comparison, just, okay team, let's move. I didn't need big tricks or wild moves. Every little sway felt valid, like my body was humming along with the music in its own handwriting. Around me, everyone had their own style, sharp, smooth, tiny, huge. Reggaeton made room for all of it. I caught myself smiling at how good it felt to simply exist to the beat, not to impress, not to perfect, just to be. Dancehall music started playing and my knees said, "Oh, we're really doing this today, huh?" The rhythm was infectious, playful, bouncy, just the right amount of rebellious. I bent my knees, sinking into the beat, and suddenly my legs were doing things my upper body hadn't scheduled. Little hops, sharp taps, smooth rolls. I felt like my lower half had logged into its own Wi-Fi. I tried a simple step, bounce, step, feeling the energy rising from the floor up through my body. Then came the fun part, adding attitude. A shoulder here, a head tilt there, a little, yes, I am that cool. At least for this song. None of it had to be perfect. Dancehall felt like a reminder that my body wasn't a project. It was an instrument. As I tried a playful kick and a tiny wobbly version of a move I'd seen online, I caught myself laughing. Not at myself, with myself. My legs really did feel like they had 360 degrees of freedom. And even if I was only using about 45 degrees safely, that sense of possibility was enough. I used to think twerking was only for music videos and people with superpowers in their lower back. Then I tried it. Spoiler, it's 10% technique, 20% rhythm, and 70% leg day. I bent my knees, stuck my hips back a little, and immediately understood that this was far more about muscles than mystery. The goal wasn't to look a certain way, it was to loosen up and let my body move in a way that felt playful. I tried to isolate my hips, then my glutes, then everything at once, which briefly made me look like I was trying to reboot my operating system. But then something clicked, a small, bouncy movement, a gentle shake, not dramatic, not cinematic, just mine. I started laughing, not out of embarrassment, but because it was oddly freeing. Twerking, at its friendliest, isn't about anyone else's gaze. It's like your body saying, look what I can do, and your brain responding, honestly, I'm impressed. After a few songs, my thighs were burning, my heart rate was up, and my mood was noticeably better. It felt less like being watched, and more like a private joke between me, the mirror, and the beat. A reminder that my body can be strong and silly and expressive all at once, and that's more than enough. I adjusted the flower in my hair. It was the size of a dinner plate, but in Seville, that counts as subtle. The guitar started strumming a bright, rhythmic chord, and I faced my partner. Sevillanas is flamenco's friendly sister. It has all the drama, the raised arms, the snapping fingers, but none of the existential sorrow. It's a dance meant for fairs, for glasses of sherry, and for laughing when you mess up. Look fierce, I told myself, channeling my inner matriarch. I arched my back and swirled my wrists, my hands blooming like rapid-fire flowers. 1, 2, 3. We passed each other, spinning in a tight circle. It's a game of now you see me, now you don't. I looked at my partner with intense dramatic flair, but then the corner of my mouth twitched. We weren't suffering, we were having a blast. I stomped my foot, not in anger, but just to add an exclamation point to the sentence my skirt was writing. By the fourth verse, we were breathless, dizzy, and clapping for each other like we'd just survived a very stylish duel. The music began, and time seemed to trip and fall into a vat of molasses. This wasn't just slow, this was luxury. I took my partner into a close embrace. Bolero is rumba that went to college and majored in Romance languages. It requires patience. I took a step, but I didn't just put my foot down. I slid it across the floor as if I were smoothing out a wrinkle in a silk sheet. Wait for it, the saxophone whispered. We held the pause. That's the secret of Bolero, the suspension. I leaned back slightly, trusting my partner's frame, and we just hovered. It was a balance test disguised as a love story. My internal monologue was screaming, "Don't wobble, engage the core," but my face projected only serene, candlelight adoration. It felt like floating in warm water. We were moving, but barely. A slow motion drift that made the rest of the busy world melt away into the background. I stood tall, lifting my chin as if I were wearing a heavy, jeweled crown. In classical Persian dance, the body is a paintbrush and the air is the canvas. I raised my hands. My wrists went limp, then curled, then flourished. I am a flower opening, my hands said. Then I am a bird taking flight. Then I am offering you tea, but I might take it back. But the real work was happening above the nose. My eyebrows were currently performing a Shakespearean soliloquy. I arched the left one, tragedy. I raised both, surprise. I softened them, tenderness. I felt like a silent film star. I glided across the floor, my feet moving in tiny shuffling steps so that my upper body appeared to be sliding on rails. I gazed at my hand as if it were the most fascinating object in the universe. It was delicate, it was refined, and it made me feel incredibly elegant, even if I knew my gliding was just frantic tiptoeing under my long skirt. The darbuka drum rolled, taka-taka-tak, and my midsection woke up from its nap. Okay, Abs, I thought. It's your time to shine. Belly dance is the magical realization that your body parts can operate independently, like a band where everyone plays a different instrument. I started a shimmy. My knees pumped back and forth, vibrating my hips until the coin belt I was wearing sounded like a joyful cash register. Jingle, jingle, jingle. Then came the isolation. I kept my hips frozen in cement and slid my ribcage to the right. It felt weirdly satisfying, like shifting a drawer in a cabinet. My stomach wasn't just a place to store lunch anymore. It was a dancer. I did a camel, rolling my body in a wave. It celebrated every curve. I wasn't trying to suck anything in. I was letting it roll. I raised my arms, snaking them through the air, and felt a surge of confident power. I was loud, I was shiny, and I was fully inhabiting my own skin. I'm currently fleshing out the descriptions for tempo, meter, time signature, and key. It's a challenging but engaging exercise in using a first-person narrative to make these musicological concepts come alive. I'm aiming for a soft novel style, where each element feels integral to a story. I'm focusing on bringing each term to life with a sense of place and time. I'm now fully immersed in the tempo draft. My approach involves using the tempo as an emotional governor. I'm playing with a speed ticket metaphor to illustrate how an external tempo can clash with internal rhythms. I'm currently using a first-person narrative detailing how my emotional state shifts with varying tempos. My goal is to capture the humorous dissonance between my internal and external worlds and how a specific tempo dictates the vibe of the scene. The Adagio in a Presto World line is also one of my favorites so far. The concept of meter is now well defined. I've successfully visualized it as a traffic controller within my mind, bringing order to the chaos of life's unorganized beats. I like the popping bubble wrap feeling that meter's structure gives me. The idea of meter is about the satisfying rhythm that comes from order and pattern, creating a rhythm even in my emotional highs and lows. The emphasis now is on the safety and predictability the invisible grid creates. Now, I'm focusing on the time signature, envisioning it as music's administrative assistant. I appreciate the humor in the simplicity of 4/4, relax, we're in common time, versus the stress of 7/8. I'm exploring the handshake metaphor, agreeing to tap my foot in a specific rhythm. This is about establishing rules before starting something new. It's like checking the schedule. I'm now fully immersed in the concept of key. It's like finding a place where you truly belong, or realizing that that off-key feeling is akin to wearing mismatched shoes. Finding the key is like stumbling into a neighborhood where everyone knows your bagel order. It is about the sense of belonging. The tonic note is the couch, the dominant, the fridge. I'm aiming for a sense of well-being and humor. I have a tendency to live my life like a hamster who has accidentally consumed a double espresso, always rushing, rarely arriving. That's why I rely on tempo to save me from myself. I put on a playlist, and suddenly the universe has a speed limit. When an adagio, slow and stately track comes on, it acts as a very polite traffic cop for my nervous system. It pulls me over to the side of the road and says, "Excuse me, citizen, but you were chopping those carrots at a wildly unsafe velocity. Let's bring it down to a simmer." Conversely, on days when I feel like a sloth who has given up on the concept of vertical movement, an allegro, fast and bright, tempo helps me cheat physics. It's the invisible current that carries me from the bed to the coffee pot. Tempo is the great regulator. It reminds me that I don't have to decide how fast to go, I just have to ride the wave. If the song is taking its sweet time, I guess I am too. And honestly, the view is much better when you aren't blurring past it at a million beats per minute. My brain is often a cluttered drawer of mismatched socks and receipts from 2019, but Meter is the Marie Kondo of sound. It takes the endless stream of time and says, "Let's put this in boxes, shall we?" I was listening to a waltz, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and I felt a deep structural satisfaction in my chest. It was the feeling of everything having a place. Without meter, music would just be a pile of noise tripping over its own shoelaces. But with it, there is a predictable swaying motion that feels incredibly safe. It organizes the chaos into lanes. The strong beats are the sturdy pillars, and the weak beats are the soft cushions in between. It reassured me that even if I didn't know what I was doing with my life next Tuesday, at least this measure of music was going to end exactly when it was supposed to. No rhythmic fender benders here, just a perfectly organized procession of seconds marching by like well-behaved ducks. I am a person who likes to read the spoilers before watching the movie. I need to know if the dog survives, otherwise my blood pressure cannot handle the suspense. That is why the overture is my safety blanket. The lights dimmed in my imagination, and the orchestra began to play a medley of everything that was about to happen. "Listen," the overture whispered, "here is the happy theme. You like this one? Oh, watch out, here comes the scary minor chord, but don't worry, it only lasts 10 seconds before the heroic trumpets show up." It was a sonic roadmap. It allowed me to emotionally prepare for the journey ahead. It was like checking the weather app and seeing cloudy with a chance of drama. By the time the curtain actually rose, I wasn't anxious about the plot twists. I had already heard them coming, and I was ready to enjoy the ride, emotionally insured against surprise tearjerkers. I spent 90% of my life using my indoor voice, repressing my urge to sigh loudly in checkout lines. Opera is the vacation my repression needs. I listened to a character who didn't just say, "I lost my keys." They sang a high B flat about the tragic emptiness of their pocket. They held the note for 12 seconds. The orchestra crashed like a thunderstorm to validate their frustration. It was magnificent. It reminded me that my feelings, no matter how mundane, are actually quite large. Why shouldn't I have a soprano solo about the fact that the coffee shop was out of oat milk? Opera gave me permission to view my life not as a series of boring inconveniences, but as a grand, melodramatic production. I walked around my apartment belting out my grocery list. My cat was confused, but I felt infinitely lighter. The plot had been moving along nicely, and then, stop the presses, it was time for an aria. The action froze. The soprano stepped to the front of the stage, or the front of my headphones, and decided to unpack her emotional baggage for 5 glorious minutes. She repeated the phrase, "I am sad," about 40 times, each time with more embellishment than the last. And honestly, it was the most relatable thing I've ever heard. An aria is just a socially acceptable breakdown. It's that moment when you sit on the floor and stare at the wall, letting the feeling wash over you until you're done. The singer didn't try to fix the problem, she just felt it. By the time she hit the final, shimmering high note, the tension in my own chest had vanished. She did the heavy lifting for me. She vented, she resolved the chord, and now we could both move on to Act 2. If an aria is a poem, recitative is a text message sent at 2 o'clock a.m. It's the plinky plonky part, where the singer stops singing pretty melodies and just starts gossiping at high speed. Da 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 da, they sing, barely taking a breath, telling the audience that the Count is in the garden and he's wearing a disguise. I love recitative because it sounds exactly like my internal monologue when I've had too much espresso. It's the logistical glue of life. I need to do laundry, then buy stamps, then call my mum. The harpsichord chords underneath acted like a supportive friend, nodding along, saying, And then, tell me more. It turns the boring administrative tasks of the day into a rhythmic patter. I tried doing my own recitative while folding socks. It didn't make the socks fold faster, but it did make me feel like an 18th century courtier with a very important schedule. Sometimes the idea of costumes and trapdoors and wigs is just too much. I want the drama, but I want to wear my sweatpants. Enter the oratorio. It's got the choir, the soloists, and the massive wall of sound, but nobody is pretending to be a shepherd. They're just standing there telling a massive story through sheer force of will and lung capacity. It felt like an audiobook on steroids. I closed my eyes and let the Messiah build a cathedral inside my head. Because there were no visuals to distract me, no fake swords or cardboard trees, my imagination had to do the work. The Hallelujah chorus hit, and I didn't need to see fireworks to feel them. The oratorio taught me that you don't always need the trappings of a performance to experience something epic. You can just stand still, open your mouth, and let the truth come out, sweatpants included. I've been meticulously analyzing the users' provided dance styles, ballet, hip-hop, and salsa, to understand their core characteristics. My focus is on translating these styles into a soft novel format. I'm currently exploring how to capture the essence of each style through descriptive language and narrative techniques, aiming for an atmospheric and evocative portrayal. I'm now integrating humor into the ballet narrative, focusing on the absurdity of point shoes and the disconnect between graceful performance and internal suffering. The confidence level is high, 5-5, in delivering the humorous elements. I'm aiming for a satirical tone, highlighting the pain beneath the elegance, using sensory details to amplify the humor. I'm exploring the ballet draft to achieve this. I'm expanding the satirical narrative by focusing on the pink satin Iron Maiden, the point shoe. The elegant upper body, contrasted with the lower body's agony, provides ample humorous material. I'm aiming for a balance between the visual humor of the ballet and the emotional tension it creates. The current draft highlights this dichotomy, using vivid sensory details to amplify the satire. The challenge is keeping the humor from overbalancing the elegance of the ballet. I'm now fully immersed in the salsa draft, translating the 4 steps concept, 3 steps plus a pause, into a dynamic narrative. The scene is set in a steamy club where I'm capturing the awkwardness of initial connections, the frantic hand placements, and the overall panic disguised as passion. I'm focusing on the feeling of personal space invasion, the physical tangles, and the independent hip movements for humor, all amplified by a frantic pace. The goal is to convey the existential dread of misplaced hands and the ever-present fear of stepping on toes, a hilarious and relatable dance experience. I'm now revising the narrative for fluency and impact, ensuring the imagery flows and the humor lands effectively. I'm reviewing each dance style against the soft novel criteria. In ballet, I'm focusing on pink satin coffins for humor and elegance. In hip-hop, the goal is to make the bass a physical force. For salsa, it's about making the humidity palpable and exploring the feeling of human origami. I'm ensuring all is humorous. The orchestra swelled, a lush wave of Tchaikovsky that demanded perfection, and I stood in the wings, staring down at my feet. They were encased in pink satin, deceptive little vessels that looked like confectionery but felt like medieval Iron Maidens. Madame always said, "You must float, darling. The audience pays to see a sylph, not a laborer." I took a breath that expanded my ribs but dared not move my shoulders, and stepped into the blinding wash of the spotlight. Up. I rose onto the tips of my toes. To the people in the velvet seats, this was a moment of ethereal transcendence, the defying of earthly bonds. To me, it was a physics equation gone wrong. My entire body weight, all of my hopes, dreams, and last night's pasta was currently balancing on a surface area no larger than a bottle cap. My big toe was screaming a silent manifesto about workers' rights. My calves were vibrating with the tension of a suspension bridge in a hurricane, but I smiled. I plastered on the expression of a woman who finds deep spiritual joy in having her metatarsals ground into dust. I extended a leg, high and weightless, my arms soft as willow branches, while my core remained as rigid as a concrete pylon. I was a beautiful lie. I was a swan on the surface, and a sweating, shaking athlete underneath, frantically negotiating a peace treaty with gravity until the curtain fell. The beat didn't start, it dropped, a seismic event that rattled the fillings in my teeth. In my daily life, I was a person who used turn signals and apologized to furniture when I bumped into it. But here, on the scuffed laminate of the studio floor, I was a menace. I widened my stance, sinking into a crouch that said, "I dare you." The lyrics barked something aggressive. A parental advisory warning manifested as sound, and my face instinctively contorted into the stank face, that universal expression of looking like you just smelled sour milk, which is somehow the highest form of approval in hip-hop. I'm currently fleshing out the musical concepts, aiming for those humorous feel-good narratives. The goal is to build these ideas into unique little soft novels, stories that are emotionally resonant and filled with delightful observations. I'm now integrating heterophony into the musical narratives. The idea is to capture that feeling of a same but different scenario, like a chaotic, loving family singing "Happy Birthday." I'm aiming for the humor of imperfections and the beauty in those little variations, especially highlighting the contrasting character between an opera-enthusiastic aunt and a mumbling uncle. The emphasis remains on cozy, feel-good moments within these soft musical tales. I'm now deep diving into call and response structures. I'm visualizing the validation element, the universe echoing my thoughts, maybe a bit too enthusiastically. There's this idea of an enthusiastic hype man response, which adds a layer of humor. Parallel to that, I'm toying with the concept of a catchy, unwelcome earworm of a melody that unexpectedly brightens my mood. I'm now personifying the catchy melody as a vibrant, unwelcome guest in my mind, a tiny creature residing in my memory. The humor lies in the jarring contrast between mundane tasks like taxes and an irresistibly catchy tune. The emotional takeaway is that this distraction, this earworm, unexpectedly brings joy. I'm presently focused on the finer details, ensuring the musical narratives hit the mark. I'm scrutinizing the word choices, aiming to enhance the fuzzy, chaotic, and casserole feel. I'm now polishing the final form, ensuring the constraints are all met. Is it soft, funny, first person, and focused on well-being? I'm excited to share the results. I used to think perfection meant unison, everyone doing the exact same thing at the exact same time, like a synchronized swimming team of robots. Then I experienced heterophony, and I realized that messy is just another word for rich. I was listening to a folk recording where 3 musicians were playing the same melody, but not quite. The flute added a little trill, the fiddle dragged the beat slightly, and the singer skipped a note to take a breath. It was exactly like my family singing "Happy Birthday." Aunt Linda thinks she's at the Met, my dad is mumbling because he forgot the name of the person we're celebrating, and I'm just trying to reach the high note without cracking. Technically, it's a disaster. Emotionally, it's a masterpiece. Heterophony taught me that we can all walk down the same road or sing the same tune without having to match our stride perfectly. The beauty isn't in the precision, it's in the fact that we're all heading in the same general direction, adding our own personal seasoning to the potluck of the song. Sometimes living inside my own head feels like a monologue in an empty theater. I say I am stressed, and the echo says stressed, stressed, stressed. This is why call and response is the ultimate emotional balm. I listened to a track where a saxophone shouted out a bluesy phrase, and a trumpet section immediately shouted back. It was a conversation. The sax asked, "Is anyone else tired?" And the trumpets replied, "Yes, but we have snacks." It felt like sending a text to a group chat and seeing those 3 little dots appear instantly. It's the reassurance that you aren't shouting into the void. The music reminded me that for every question I have, be it existential or just "where did I put my keys?" there is a response waiting. It might come from a friend, a pet, or just a really good guitar solo, but the universe is listening, and it usually has something catchy to say back. I sat down to do my taxes. It was a serious moment for serious adults. But then it arrived, the hook. It was a bouncy, glittery fragment of a pop song from 2012, and it moved into my brain without signing a lease. It set up a hammock in my hippocampus and started juggling. "Please," I told the hook, "I am calculating deductibles." "Nah," the hook replied. We're going to loop the phrase, "Ooh, baby, yeah," for the next 4 hours. At first, I fought it, but then I realized the hook was actually a tiny, serotonin-producing philanthropist. It wasn't distracting me, it was keeping me afloat. While my hands typed numbers, my brain was at a beach party.